Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a look at the online personality known as the Wizard Liz.
hmm She's really known for her motivational content, aimed particularly, it seems, at young women. We've got sources looking at her message, but also, well, some recent events.
Right. Her focus tends to be on self-confidence, character building, healing, drawing on her own life, things like overcoming eating disorders, abuse aftermath. That comes through in sources like the Coconut piece.
Definitely. Emphasizing personal responsibility, self-acceptance. But like you said, there's this significant recent event.
Yeah, the breakup of her engagement to Landon Nickerson. It's been reported pretty widely, Bombay Times, Sportskeeda following cheating allegations.
And the really tough part is that she's 4 months pregnant. So that's added, a whole other dimension to the public discussion.
So that's our mission today. We're going to unpack the sources we have, her message, the relationship story she shared, these recent events, and importantly, the different reactions and frankly critiques we're seeing online. Places like Reddit, feminism in India.
Even a men influencer perspective. It's quite a mix.
Okay, so let's start with that core message. What is it fundamentally about based on the sources?
Well, looking at Coconut, Girl Spring, it's rooted in empowerment, building self-worth, healing, moving from self-criticism towards self-acceptance, taking control.
But it's not universally seen that way, is it? The sources show some friction there.
Right. On Reddit, for example, some people who seem to appreciate her general advice still raise questions, like about transparency, especially around her financial journey. Was there help early on that maybe isn't always highlighted? That sort of thing.
Okay, and that maybe connects to the critique from feminism in India.
It does seem related. They actually label some of it toxic girl boss feminism. The argument isn't that things like therapy or boundaries are bad. She promotes those.
No, of course not.
But the critique focuses on the emphasis on becoming like a high-value woman seeking princess treatment or advice like, stop dating broke guys.
What's the issue they see there?
The argument in the article is that this can end up promoting a kind of individual success tied to privilege or potentially reliant on finding a financially stable man rather than focusing on a woman's own independent financial power or, challenging the broader structures.
So leaning more towards individual gain within the system, maybe overlooking female financial independence is the primary goal.
That seems to be the core of that specific critique, yeah. Now, central to all the recent buzz is, of course, the relationship with Landon.
And the way they met was unique.
They talked about it in a Q&A. Started with an Instagram DM, apparently years past, and then this completely chance encounter in an airport lounge. They really framed it as, like, almost fate.
And then things moved quite fast. Engagement.
Relatively quickly, yeah. Which brings us to the difficult part, the breakup.
How did that come out?
Liz announced it herself via Instagram stories, said Landon had cheated, mentioned a secret Snapchat account, engagement off, and confirmed she's 4 months pregnant.
Wow. And the reaction?
Huge. India Times, Sportskeeda reported on it, a lot of public outrage at Landon, naturally, and support for Liz.
Though she did ask people not to send hate.
Yeah.
Right? Despite her own hurt.
She did. Sportskeeda noted that. She also mentioned, though, planning to sell the engagement ring and donate the money to single mothers.
Okay. Now, this whole situation, it's been viewed through some very specific lenses online.
Definitely. Take the Share a 7 community on Reddit. They're known for focusing heavily on financial vetting in relationships, very pragmatic stuff.
And their take?
They saw it as a kind of cautionary tale about, in their terms, dating down. The critique was that maybe she prioritized love or attraction over things they see as more critical, like a partner's maturity, stability, established status.
Suggesting she might have been, used for clout? Or baby-trapped even? Since they weren't married.
Those were the kinds of discussions happening there, yes. Applying their framework to her choices.
And then there's this other perspective, the men influencer video source.
Right, another layer of analysis. This view looked at her choice of partner. The argument presented was that choosing someone perceived as maybe a safe or nerdy option could indicate underlying issues.
Issues like what?
Possibly linked to maybe not having a strong father figure as a model for healthy relationships. The argument goes that women from, quote, broken homes might struggle to recognize how a capable man acts, maybe trusting too quickly based just on attention.
So again, a very specific interpretation based on a particular worldview.
Exactly. You've got the public sympathy, but also these very niche online communities applying their own theories and critiques to her personal life and decisions.
It really shows how, public figures online get dissected from so many angles.
It really does. The pressures are immense.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. We've journeyed through the sources, looking at Liz's core message about healing and empowerment, that unique meeting story with Landon, the really challenging recent events.
And then considered these quite diverse viewpoints and criticisms from Reddit communities, feminism in India that men influencer take. It paints a complicated picture.
Yeah, touching on growth, relationships, money, independence, and just the sheer difficulty of living life so publicly online.
Absolutely.
So thinking about all this, what really stands out to you? What resonates from these different takes on self-help, relationships, and these online personas?
And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Given this whole spectrum we've seen, from the aspirational advice to these really pointed critiques focusing on everything from feminist theory to relationship pragmatism, what does this deep dive tell us about how we, as consumers of online content, should navigate advice and authenticity, especially when a public narrative crashes into private reality?